Hi, Jason Pilgrim here from the Profitable Practice Podcast, where we help allied health professionals just like you empower and inspire the lives of so many more people by building bigger and better businesses. Let's go and get stuck in right now.
So what is it about business ownership and the way in which we have a peculiar behavioural set which defines us as a business owner? And I see it all the time with allied health business owners, and there's really only 6 steps of behavioural change that you need to work on to be able to make massive improvements in your business and obviously in your life. It's not just being professional about it, it's being the personal side of development as well. So let's get stuck in right now into the 6 behavioural steps that you need to work on to guaranteed business growth. Welcome everyone to the podcast today, all about the foundational principles of how we actually make change. Because let's be completely honest about it, you're the one that's responsible for change in our life. I see it all the time. We always want to whinge about the government doing this, we want to whinge about the private health insurers doing this, or Medicare and DVA, and all these type of things happen all the time in and around business. And I'm not saying that they don't have a major bearing on what we can do and what we can't do, but there's always a way around it, and there's often it's just some simple amounts of basic changes. Maybe it's not even a huge innovation that's needed. A lot of the time it's just the simplistic side of what we need to be able to pivot on to get huge amounts of change. But the challenge that we actually have is it's not fundamentally that we need to look for the exact key, the exact model, the exact words that are going to give those benefits to yourself moving forward. The vast majority of time, and I see this all the time with literally dozens and dozens of health business owners that I work with on a monthly basis, is the fact that the change must initiate from yourself as the business owner. It must come from the actual health professional's mentality and behavioural side of things before you can actually look to make any of the structural or operational changes. And what this comes back to is hope. Right? And hope is obviously a foundational principle for any change and all change. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to hope this and hope that, because let's be completely honest, we can rely on hopium, and what a lot of people do with their marketing is just hope that things are going to work, and that's actually really bad. But we have to actually be able to admit the fact that people only change because they actually have hope. Like the reason why you do have a structured marketing campaign is because you believe it's going to work, and you ultimately, belief is based on hope. So the good news is this: you're actually responsible for the changes that you make in your life and your business moving forward. So if you don't have hope, things won't change. And so once we start to understand that, the good news is if you really want to actually make an improvement, first of all, it actually starts with the way you think and ultimately the way you then behave as a net result. So if you're really ready to make changes to your business, to yourself personally and professionally, there's really only 6 steps, and I'm going to walk you through those right now. So step 1, excuse me, is when you actually change your thinking and change your mentality, you actually change your beliefs. Now, I'm not talking about your core values as a human and things like that, but change does begin with the mind. And beliefs are nothing more than a byproduct of what we've actually thought about for long enough. All right, it's something that we've always, that we actually understand. It's what we've, bought into. Quite often you'll hear, someone drinks the Kool-Aid, and it's no matter what was really the scenario, they believe it because they just know, like, and trust that person or that product, and that's what the brain always remembers. So what you believe and what you think is actually just a collection of continual thoughts that are formed into what you now believe is your conviction. And when you break that down into thinking about a manageable number of steps, you actually reduce the perceived risk associated with that change. And so let's think about it right now. There's been a lot of time where you've actually perceived a big risk moving forward, or you haven't done something because you perceive it to be a big risk. When in actual fact, it's probably that you're just in a little bit of overwhelm because you don't actually know those steps. It seems like too big a task. It seems like all too much to do. I don't have time. I don't know the right things to say or do, and as a net result, you get yourself believing, because of those continual thoughts and that continual negativity, you get yourself believing that it's not going to work or that you're not sure, and as a net result you have that belief. But that comes down to the hope that you either have or don't have in and around the change that you need to make. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the first change you need to make is, and the first step is, you need to change your thinking so that you can therefore change your beliefs. Because once you change your beliefs, you can actually change your expectations, and that is step 2. You have a belief change, and as a net result, you are able to change your expectations. So if belief is knowing then that the knowledge that you have can actually do something, and something good, which is ultimately what you're wanting at the time, then you actually create an inner feeling of what you're about to undertake is therefore quite achievable. And so most of us have the ability to look at something and know whether we can actually do it. And so as a net result, when we believe in ourselves, we actually have a greater sense of power. And we hear this all the time. We hear sports stars and sports teams talking about the fact that they believed in themselves. We always had that belief that we were good enough to win in the grand final. And it's so true. It's the inner belief that a team has, or the people have, about achieving something, or kicking the goal, swimming the fastest, changing that person's outcome in our business, that actually gives us a confidence to do it. But it's not just about confidence, it's actually looking at something and knowing you can do it. So there's the belief, and therefore in belief there is a huge amount of power, and we understand that when opportunities then come up, we can actually then believe that we can actually do it. So it reframes the behaviors that we have around expectations. So if you think about a marketing strategy, you might be in a scenario where you don't actually understand what's moving forward. So you're not prepared to change your thinking. Therefore, you won't actually change your beliefs. And moving into step 2 is, when you don't change your beliefs, you can't actually get any forward momentum. But when you do change your beliefs, you actually completely rewire your brain in regards to the expectations that you therefore have. So now all of a sudden that marketing, rather than hoping it works or being negative about it and not changing, if your belief is actually now creating the power that you can actually do this, then the expectation is rewired that this is actually going to work. The expectation is that I know what I'm doing, I understand what I'm doing, I'm going to follow this model, and as a net result I'm expecting this to work. Which is why things like following proven business coaching methods, the right model of how you do things in your business, is really, really crucial. And that then takes us on to step 3. Now step 3 is then from the expectations through to your attitude. Because all of a sudden, your expectations are now a completely different framework, and your expectations determine your attitude. Most people are quite average in what they think, and they have a fairly average expectation, and so they're used to coming second, or they're used to just something happening and going, yeah, well, that sort of helped, and yeah, that was that was above, a little bit probably above average of where we thought, and so therefore they accept it and move forward. But first and foremost, the most important step towards success is the expectation that we can actually succeed. And so when we actually have that expectation of success, and we actually expect to get the same result as someone else when they did this, then all of a sudden our attitude changes. We become more positive. We become more dogmented in our approach. We realize that, hey, you know what? Well, if it worked for everyone else and I'm doing the same thing, it's going to work for me as well. And when you follow that through and do what is a tried, tested and proven marketing approach, for instance, then you're going to get a lot of confidence out of it, and you will actually change your attitude. And then number 4 kicks in. And step 4 is therefore when you change your attitude, your behavior changes. Because Think about how many times, like you might think that you're got to go into this interview or going in with a proposal for something, and you try and pump yourself up. You think to yourself about you've got to be confident, you've got to be able to tell someone what you can do and how you do it, and you've got to be able to portray that confidence and the attitude moving forward. And that's a really crucial thing that we all do all the time. We try and modify our behavior and our attitude, and when you think about it, your attitude is going to always underpin your behavior. When we involve ourselves with something that needs a particular attitude, that is what's going to determine your behavior. Alright? If we're going to make personal changes of attitude, then we need to actually have a more heightened approach to that attitude about what we're going to say and do, our body language, etc., because that has a crucial aspect of what moves forward. So step 4 is the attitude then determines your behavior. So first of all, we've got to get our thinking right. We've got to change our beliefs. Then when we change our beliefs, it changes our expectations, which is step 2. Step 3 enables our expectations to change our attitude. And then from that point forward, step 4 is your attitude changes your behavior. Now step 5 then means when we change our behavior, we are naturally going to see a marked difference in our performance. So if we change our behavior when we go into a job interview, our performance is going to be completely different. If we change our behavior going into the way we approach a new corporate contract, or the behavior in which we actually work with a difficult client, it's going to naturally change the outcome of our performance. And unfortunately, most people in our industry would rather stick their head in the sand and live with the older problems than actually have to go through and change into new solutions. It's why so many aspects of the academic world really move slowly in our industry, because it's a lot easier to stay with what they're doing than go through all the mechanical changes, and therefore the performance as a net result doesn't actually improve. So it means new solutions and new innovations are not taken up in our industry nearly as quickly as they should. And that comes down to comfort, because we'd rather be comfortable than correct. We'd rather stay in a routine because we know it, we feel it, it's comfortable. But change is where we need to actually, invoke that innovative response to get a better performance or a better outcome. Okay? So even when we know that change is often going to be better for us, we often don't make that change because we feel a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit awkward about making that kind of change. And until we actually get the courage up and get used to, maybe living with something that's a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit awkward, or changing our behavior to actually go with what we know is the right attitude, and we know the expectation of what the outcome is going to be, you have to get comfortable to do that. We have to maybe speak a bit more loudly, create a better relationship and rapport with the client, or with the client, the corporate contract or something like that. We need to have the courage to change that behavior, because ultimately that is going to drive a better performance outcome. And finally, step 6. When we then are able to change that performance, that truly is when you're going to change your life and the life of your business. Okay? It's much easier to turn failure into success than an excuse into a possibility. So when one person can actually fail and turn around and understand their failure to make it a success, alright, other people can't. And I want to tell you this, that a person who makes excuses for everything will never truly succeed. So rather than make an excuse about it was the wrong time of day, or, my team member couldn't do this, or, the person was malingerous and therefore, let's not look for excuses. What we need to actually be able to do is, and if I take a side on this, we know what we're talking about. There's people that have excuses for everything. They want to blame someone, or, always, it was never them, and why should they? Because they're great. They know what to do. They wouldn't have done that. And we all know people in that situation. I guess, hope that it's not yourself that you're identifying when I say that. But here's the thing. The person who always makes excuses is never going to succeed. And I'm going to promise you this. When you actually stop making excuses for what you're doing and what you're saying, right, you actually are going to be able to go all the way back, and you're going to be able to change your beliefs. You're going to be able to therefore influence your expectations. And when you have an influence, a more positive expectation, you will change your attitude. Your attitude will determine your behavior, and your behavior will give you an improved performance. So as a net result, you're going to fail to reach your true potential if you don't actually make those changes in the first place. And it's impossible to turn excuses into possibilities. So guys, there's the 6 steps. You need to first of all change your thinking. Alright? It's not just about follow the system, follow this and do it, etc. You have to make a change the way you think and the way you believe moving forward. That's the first step. The belief will then change your expectations, which will therefore change your attitude. When your attitude changes, you know that your behavior will, as a net result, change automatically. And that changed behavior, when done in the right way, will change your performance. And that performance will therefore enable and guarantee your business moves forward, you grow and develop more personally and professionally, and overall you'll have massive more success in your personal and professional life by listening to this over again 2 or 3 times, right? Listen to this, go through it, and just understand those 6 steps. Once you know those 6 steps and put them into place, everything is going to have a massive, massive momentum shift, and so much more positivity is going to come out of it for your life personally and professionally moving forward from there. Guys, there's the 6 steps. It's now up to you. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Like Jim Rohn always said, you're not a tree. If you want to move, go and move. If you want to make a change, you've got to go and change. Okay? So, it's now up to you. Go and do it. I know you can do it. Let's go and make it happen. Cheers for now.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.